Hello and welcome back to another interview. Now, I was going to say a client interview, but this is not a client because Danny has left us. I know he left us, but not because of bad results, but because he has now gone to bigger and better things. He is now a coach, which is very, very interesting. But I want to get him on the interview because he had a lot of success with us. He's got a lot of good insights to pass on to other people. That's why he's a coach now. And yes, he ran a practice called Crawley Chiropractic Centre. And I'll let him do a little introduction himself. Welcome on, Danny. How are you?
I'm really well, mate. Thanks for having me on your show. It's much appreciated.
I've been on yours. You've been on mine now. Mine
Indeed.
has nowhere near as many episodes as yours. So if you want to watch a load of content, go to Danny's stuff.
Nice
Can
one.
you do a little introduction for people who maybe don't know who you are?
Yeah, sure thing, mate. So I've, as you mentioned, these days I spend more time coaching than in practice. I also do locums. Next year for me will be 20 years in practice, or 20 years as a practicing chiropractor. And so when did I graduate now? So I graduated in 2006, trained at WEOC. And before chiropractic, I did 4 years osteopathy. I won't go into that story too much because that's quite a long one. The long and the short of it is, before I ever adjusted my first ever private chiropractic client, I had done 9 years of training. Nine.
Wow.
Compared to, for some it was 4, for some it was 5. So I often used to joke to friends and colleagues that I molded the best bits out of both professions, chiropractic and osteopathy. And I often joke that as an osteopractor or a chiropath, you know, taking the best bits out of both and kind of molded them together. And there's good bits and there's great and good bits in both professions. So I've taken the good and left the shit behind. And because every profession has some politics, but we won't get into that today. And so yeah, my first couple of jobs in chiropractic was in Dublin. I didn't really fancy practicing in the UK right out the gate because the GCC now is a certain animal. It was a very different animal at that time. So I didn't really want to be anywhere near the UK at that time. So I went out to Dublin and I was there for nearly just under 4 years. And then I came back to the UK. I was an associate for 5 years. Then I set up my own practice, ran that for 10 years, give or take. It was just shy of 10 years. And then we decided to sell last summer. And we had some holidays in the earlier this year. I think we were on a call one time this year when I was in Bali and you were in the Philippines or somewhere like that, didn't we?
Something like that. Yeah, definitely something like that.
Might have been Vietnam. Is possibly where you were. I was definitely in Bali at the time. And so yeah, that's a holiday we had this year. We traveled around Southeast Asia, well, particularly Thailand and Bali. That was a reward for 10 years of hard graft, running that business, building that business. And yeah, so myself and Claire, we ran CCC together. CCC meaning Crawley Chiropractic Centre. And so that holiday was a reward. And Claire was doing a fair bit of coaching on that trip. To be honest, mine was mainly a jolly. I was doing a bit of work, but nowhere near as much as what Claire was doing. And yeah, so fast forward a few months later, and here we are, and we're almost in October already. And so the coaching that we've both spoken about today that I do is chiropractic mindset mastery. And for those clients of yours that listen to lots of podcasts and the chiropractors, because it's chiropractic mindset mastery, it's obviously would be helpful for other professionals as well, but the niche is chiropractic. So check out chiropractic mindset mastery, and we're on Apple, we're on Spotify and YouTube as well. So that's what the business is, the coaching business. It's about mastering what's going on between your ears so you can be successful in your business and your life.
Love that. We can just wrap it up there. It's just like, boom, there's some value, everyone. He's got his plug in as well. I think that's actually one of the first things because we'd worked together for about 3 months or something. And we hadn't we had a couple of conversations, but then we had a call because you, or like 4 or 5 months or something, and you called me and you were like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do coaching. I was like, oh, what's it about? And then we had like a 3 hour long or 2 hour long conversation on the phone randomly about mindset. And I think that's something that maybe I'll go into a lot with you today, because it's something that you are good at. And it's kind of how we like first people bonded. We bonded over like mindset and just like grafting it out, because we both really didn't know each other, had a similar mindset. And then we spoke about people like Charlie Morgan, who was like one of my biggest mentors and some of your biggest mentors as well. I guess in terms of, I also didn't know about the osteopathy thing. That's very, very interesting. But I can imagine that made you a better practitioner, and probably had a better product because of it.
Yes.
So going back to mindset, what was your mindset when you're going into consultations, like initials, ROFs, so that you can serve the patient the best way possible, but then also obviously get them across the line so they can convert into a care plan as well?
So in terms of how I set myself up before going in or beyond, okay, cool. Well, one of the biggest things, whether it's a day one or day two, day one being initial consultation exam, day two typically report findings. The main thing for me, and what I've taught many associates and clients, is to have high intention, low attachment. The high intention meaning you want the best possible intention, the best possible outcome for your client and for your business where you work. And if it's your own thing or if you're an associate, you want the place to be doing well where you are. And so the high intention mean you want best outcome for all concerned. The low attachment, what that actually means is you're not attached to the outcome, meaning you're not coming across as desperate in any way, shape, or form, because anytime anyone's desperate in any situation, the other party can see it. They can pretty much smell it. You know what I mean? So high intention, low attachment is the starting point, because if you haven't got that baseline, then everything else that you put on top of that is just not going to convert, and you're not going to be able to influence people like you would tend to. Does that make sense?
100%. I definitely agree with you on that. I had a client, Eduardo, in his video testimonial with me. He said it made me convert more, having more patients, because I wasn't desperate to try and close them. It wasn't like this is my only patient for the next 2 weeks, and first, like, new patient wise. So then it means, because people can really sense it. And so if you're the person in the call that's like, I don't need this, you have the highest leverage. So you almost like the person who can walk away from the deal, they get it.
100%, mate.
It's exactly like that. It seems. Okay, so that's when you're setting yourself, and you're doing that for day one and day two, I assume, or mainly probably more day two, right?
Well, both, to be honest, because that old saying, first impressions last. If you're going to be needy in visit one, then they might not even come back in visit two. So I mean, if you ask your girlfriend at any point in the past, mate, and anyone listening and watching to this, girls tend to get hit on more than blokes typically, unless the bloke looks like David
Speak for
Beckham.
yourself.
Yeah, well, I can only speak for myself. But so what was I going to say there? You lost me train of thought there. Yes, so women tend to get hit on more than blokes, and if you ask any woman, ask your bird, Dan, if she's ever been hit on in the past before, she must have done, like, for sure. She will be able to smell the desperation on the guy who's trying to make a connection with her, and that's a turner off her. That turns people off. And everything is about relationships in business and life, whether it's a business relationship, personal relationship, whatever it may be. Desperation and neediness is a turn off, whoever the person is.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Definitely. And I 100% agree with you. And then in terms of, like, how do you feel like it takes you a long time with your team members to really install that mindset into them? And, like, is there any other, because it seems like team is one of your best attributes as well. So, like, how are you installing your mindset into your team? Is it just repetition, and like, how long does it take?
Oh, it's great questions. Quite a few questions in there. One of the biggest aspects to the answer to that question is we had and still have a code of honor. There's a great book called Team Code of Honor. I think we've spoken about it before.
We have.
Anyone who's never heard of that, check it out. Team Code of Honor by Blair Singer. Code of Honor is his lingo for creating culture in your business, and it's crucial that everyone buys into it. And like you were just before we started today, you were talking about hiring and stuff like that, and building teams and building culture. The Code of Honor is basically a list of rules, if you like, that we live by the Code of Honor and we die by the Code of Honor. You know, it's literally like that. And we not only do we have one, did we have one in CCC in the chiropractic business? I've got one in my coaching business. We all, myself and Claire, and you know Claire well as well, we have a relationship Code of Honor, and we have a meeting every month about that and give each other feedback on whether we have stuck to the Code of Honor or not.
I love that.
And it's great. And when we do it regularly, things are so much more smooth, whether that be personal relationships or in business. It's crucial. And you know, when I talk about hiring by the Code of Honor, I've multiple times hired by the Code of Honor and fired by the Code of Honor. And you know what? People usually fire themselves because they know what they've done right and they know what they've done wrong. And then if they're consistently doing things wrong, they know they're doing it wrong. And yeah, I've had many times where people have ended up firing themselves.
That is so interesting. So can you talk me through what that looks like then? Like, is it like, what's the steps like that they need to follow to be successful with the Code of Honor?
Yeah, of course, mate. So would you like me to tell you an incident where somebody fired themselves with the Code of Honor?
That would be great as well.
Okay, cool. So the Code of Honor, yeah, I think I've got one in my phone, yeah, because I still carry it now, because my CCC Code of Honor and my Chiropractic Mindset Mastery Code of Honor, they're very, very similar. I carry that in my wallet. Hopefully it is still there. Yes, it is. Okay, cool. Excellent.
This is great.
So the first one is to show up early and be present. Second one is have fun, celebrate with all wins, and goose often. In this context, goose means to celebrate and to cheer on. As I'm well aware, the goose has many different meanings and contexts. Honest, prompt, and direct communication is number 3. Number 4 is take full responsibility, ask for help, and never leave a teammate behind. Number 5 is honor all agreements and be accountable. Number 6 is no blame, justification, or denial. Number 7 is finish whatever you start and plurk at 100%. I'll explain what plurk means in a minute. Do not take feedback personally and use it for personal growth. That is our Code of Honor that we put together as a team. And as a team, every quarterly meeting, we would review the Code of Honor, and we would, whoever was leading the meeting, whether it would be me or our operations manager in the past, if anyone wanted to edit or change or discuss an item of the Code of Honor, we would discuss that and we would agree to make changes or not, and then go forward. And every single meeting that we have, team meeting, every single coaching call that I have, we start with the Code of Honor. And that incident, one that really sticks in my mind, of people being hired by the Code of Honor and fired by it. This is a lady we'll call Nikki, just to protect her identity. And so Nikki was she was a CA, chiropractic assistant, so she was front of house, so customer service, sales, all these kinds of aspects. And you need to really be present in that role. You need to be really present in every role, to be honest. But in this context, you know, a CA, that's first port of call. A prospect or a new client comes in, that's first impressions. Back to what I was saying before, first impressions last. And so she was pretty good some days and pretty crap other days. And so there was no consistency, and she was often late. And so there was various things. So there's loads of different items in the Code of Honor, so that she was consistently breaking. And I'd say to her, so Nikki, tell me which item of the Code of Honor do you think that we need to speak about? and she might say, is it show up early and be present? And I'd be like, yes, absolutely, we do need to speak about that. What else? And so she'd end up coming out with what she's actually needing to basically hold her hands up and say, I've made a mess of this. And I'd say, okay, great. So I agree. There's also A, B, and C, for example. So there was a meeting, a verbal warning, and then we'd have another because it was consistently breaking the code. And so then I'd say we need to have a meeting to discuss a few things about the code of honor, and then a similar sort of conversation. And we got to like the written warning, and then I had another conversation with her, and I'd said, okay, so Nikki, what items of the code of honor do you think we need to speak about? And they were very similar to the previous ones. The lessons were not being learned. I'm like, okay, so tell me which items we need to speak about on the code. She did so. And I said to her, which I've said to many people since, but this was the first time I remember saying it. If you were me and I was you, what would you say if the roles were reversed?
Oh, I love that.
And then I just shut my mouth and wait for her to speak. And she says, I would fire me. And I said, I can't disagree. It's the end of the line. And, because we'd instilled such a strong code of honor within the team, she was trying to stick to it. She was doing her best, but it just wasn't good enough for our team. And you know what? After she'd fired herself, we in our team, we were very big on giving people a hug. We were very touchy feely in that, and so after she'd fired herself, she started crying. She stood up. We both stood up. It was the end of the meeting, and she gave me the biggest, possibly one of the biggest hugs I've ever had in my life. Even though she just fired herself, there was no hard feelings. So that's the power of the code, mate.
I am extremely impressed by that because the first time you ever told me that, I had no team members. Now we have 9. So I can see how powerful that is. When you can make someone like they have such guardrails. It's like bowling alley, and they just like, the guardrails are up. They know exactly what way they need to go. Yeah. And it just that is, I'm not surprised you had an incredible culture like that, because it's just so clear. And then when you fire and hire based on that, it only boosts the culture.
Yeah.
That is really, really impressive. I really like that. I wrote it all down, so I'm gonna definitely take. We have like core values. It's not, maybe I might just change them to code of honor. It's very similar, and we talk about them quite a lot. But I really, really like that. How long did it take you to like this process of her being like not on performance, and then to actually then firing her? Like, how long was that period?
It was quite a few years ago, mate. I would guess it was definitely no longer than 6 months. She wasn't with us long, because of what I've described. And you know what the interesting thing is? I think 2 years later, even though she had fired herself and we parted ways, we were away somewhere. I think we were on a trip to America, and we had CA problems while we were away. I.e., we didn't have enough staff. And even though she had fired herself a couple of years prior to that, we really needed help. So we thought, should we reach out and ask her? She might say yes. And she did some cover for us while we were away.
Wow.
Because we desperate. Because so obviously that's an indication of, that we left on good terms, even though it didn't work out. And that's what the code can do for you in any context, whether it's business, relationships, or even a personal code of honor with yourself.
It's very, very good when you have guardrails like that. And like when people, it's just so clear. It's very good. Do you kind of wish you'd maybe fired her quicker? Because I've heard the quote like hire slow, fire fast.
I use that all the time myself. Yeah, in hindsight, probably. I wanted to, when I look back though, I wanted to give her a chance to get her shit together. I gave her enough chances to get that together, but she didn't. So that's what happened.
What made you, like, on the interview, like, I assume you probably thought she would fit into that culture that you had. What what was it like? Did she genuinely, like, on the interview, it seemed like she had everything and then just started to dip as time went on? Or do you feel like you missed something? I'm trying to learn so I don't so I don't have to go through the pain of having to rehire someone.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, mate, no one ever gets it right all the time.
True.
You know, any business owner that's been in business for any length of time will tell you that they've made way more mistakes than they have successes. That's just the nature of the beast. And so I don't think anyone can get from one side from where they are now to where they want to get to without making mistakes. Like, if that's just not the way it works. Success is built on failures. It really is. So would I have done anything differently? Perhaps. I think that was quite early days in our kind of building teams time scale or time frame. So I probably would have, if I'd interviewed her again, because by that, for like, if I look at where I am now compared to where I was then as a leader, a business owner, and a mentor and coach, I would have asked different questions, or not different. I would have added additional questions in. We're talking like 6 or 7 or 8 years ago now, so I don't recall exactly what happened in the interview. It was a group interview, though. Group interviews we always did, and I literally get everybody, whether it was on Zoom or in person. I think her interview was in person because that was pre-COVID. So there's like 5 or 6 people who'd applied for that position. They all. I mean, I think there was probably about 10 people that was supposed to be coming. 5 or 6 turned up, and I literally had the code of honor. I'm at the front of the room, and they all had to recite it back to me. And I would act. Did you know what I was saying before? I hired by the code of honor, fired by the code of honor. I would say that to them up front. This code of honor right here. I'm hiring you. One of you guys. They were all girls, I think. So one of you ladies is going to get hired by this code of honor. I also have and will continue to fire by the code of honor. So I'm very upfront right from the get-go. And although I learned a lot of this from Blair Singer's books, I did learn a lot of this stuff from Ryan Reeder as well. He was a coach and mentor of mine for many years, and a good mate as well. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question somewhat, mate.
Yeah, no, it's really good. We do a similar thing. We call it like reverse selling. It's like, this is why it's going to be absolutely horrible to work here, and then like, they just get way more bought in, rather than, because usually like an interview is like 2 people professionally lying to each other. So then like we just try and do the exact opposite. Yeah, and then it means you get. I've seen, since doing it, it's really helped like people come in with good expectations. Yeah, it seems like a very similar thing. So obviously you had Morgan when you were at the clinic. One of the, he was your main associate, right? Did you have anyone else over the time?
No, I've only ever had one associate at a time.
Nice. Yeah. And so what tips, because I personally know Morgan as well, and he is very, very good. I was speaking to another clinic owner who said that you did a very, very good job at getting Morgan when you did into the clinic, because it's one of the hardest things, especially when I speak to a lot of chiropractors, like especially in different areas as well. Like, you're not in central London, so it's a bit harder. Obviously, you're not miles from London. So, but how did you get an A player associate? Because that's what you have or had at the time.
Yeah, that's a great question, mate. And I would say we played the long game. I was saying to you, what I mean by that is what I was saying to yourself before we started this call today. I met Morgan is now 23.
Oh,
24.
I spoke to him today. 24.
24. Yeah.
If he doesn't mind us leaking his age.
No, not at all. He's always been an old head on young shoulders, though. He's very switched on, and because I met him when he was 17, so he came in to him and a couple of friends were not sure at the time whether they wanted to be physios, osteopaths, chiropractors, etc. So I did a lot of business networking in those days, and one of Morgan's friends says, "Oh, my dad knows a chiropractor, go and see him and observe him and see if that's what you want to do. So we had a conversation when he was in, I think he was in lower sixth, so halfway through his A levels, and he decided to become a chiropractor, and he went to ACC in Bournemouth, and he studied for 4 years. Was it 4 years? It might be 5 years. I forget now. Now he's been a practicing chiropractor for 2 years. He worked with us for a year, and then we sold the practice. We sold the practice to move up north to be closer to aging parents. So when I didn't take Morgan on with a view to selling the practice 1 year in. That's just that was never the intention. But the long game is, I mentored him from the age of 17, and then he started with us when he was 22, 23. And I coached him all the way through that. He used to work for us in the summer, doing spinal screenings and covering holiday cover for CAs. He was just totally all in. He bought into it. And again, largely because of the code. He knew that our standards were very high in the practice, and he's got the attitude that he always wants to improve every day, and in everything that he does, because he's an athlete as well, does triple jumping and stuff like that. So, as I said before, even when he was 17, I was like, you're not like many 17-year-olds I've met before. He was just like really switched on and mature for his age. If you compare himself to other 24-year-olds, you would think that he's way older than 24 when you compare him to people his own age.
Yeah, definitely. And like, when you did that, was that something someone had taught you, like, oh, you should find someone who is really young, help them through their entire training process, and then get them into your clinic? Or is this just something like you saw a chance, you helped him out, and then obviously it paid you dividends that 1 year he was with you, because he did very well?
Great question. So it was an opportune moment for both of us, you could say, when we met. I was well aware that he was very young at the time, and I was like, do you know what? He's going to make a great chiropractor one day. We'll keep in touch. And as long as the relationship continues well, and it always did, because as we were talking before, communication, crystal clear communication. People know what's okay and what's not okay. And so there's always been crystal clear communication. And one of my mentors has always said, I'm going to butcher this quote now, but words to the effect of, poor communication is the root cause of almost all issues in business. Can't think of the exact words, but that was the meaning behind it. So I've always been crystal clear on what's expected and what's okay and what's not okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I think it's I don't know, because I've never spoke to many people about it before. Is it something that's common to do something like that, and helps and train someone through their early stages so that they come and work for you? Or
very, very uncommon, mate.
Yeah, because it feels like it's a definitely an investment. But I imagine that it wasn't all about being tactical. You just genuinely probably liked him being around, because he's very good to talk to, and it's good energy, and he helped you out as well, and you helped him out and stuff. Absolutely,
yeah. Although I was essentially his boss because it was my practice, I always like to think that I'm have friendship with the people that we work with. We've always looked at it as a family. And
how do you find the balance, though?
It's a great question.
It's kind of the impossible question, to be fair.
Yeah, it's very difficult to find the balance, and you'll know when you're out of balance on it.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? Earlier in my career, I had an associate, and we were doing training, and after when I was taking associates on, there'd be at least 4 weeks training with me to get them up to speed on what's expected and all that kind of stuff. This was way before COVID, so it was face to face, and we'd often go for a beer afterwards. and just like debrief and just, you know, get to know each other better and have a laugh, you know. So one of our core values is to part of one of the code of honor items or core values is to have fun. So
you may need to explain plurk later on.
oh yeah, thank you for the reminder. Forgot about that. Remind me to come back to that in a second.
Yeah, I'll write it down.
So
you went for a beer?
Yeah, we were out for a beer, and so we were socializing quite a bit, and then there was elements of the role as an associate. One of the prerequisites is they go out and do business networking. And for me, that was BNI or other organizations like that. BNI meaning Business Networking International, for those viewers and listeners that may not have heard of it. And so I remember having a conversation with this particular associate. He hadn't in a networking group he was supposed to attend, and it's like you're supposed to be there every week. And I knew the people that were in the networking group because I'd been a member there for a long time. How's my associate getting on? You might want to cut
Margot,
that.
please, can you cut this bit out?
Yeah, do please, Margot. So how's our associate getting on in the group? Well, he wasn't here today. All right, why not? I don't know. He just wasn't. So I had a conversation with the associate in question and said, why were you not there? I didn't want to go. What do you mean you didn't want to go? It's not about wanting. It's a prerequisite. So it was difficult to in that very moment. That was not a nice conversation for either of us, but it was a conversation that had to happen. The associate basically got a bollocking because he'd taken liberties. Like, it's not for you to decide whether you're going or not. You've agreed to go every week. You don't choose to not go because something more important comes up in the day. So what I'm trying to say, mate, is the lines between at that time, the lines between the boss and friend have become very blurred, and we both recognise that. And from that point on, other than a team social, we didn't do any of the going out for a beer and stuff, because I think on both sides, to an extent, it became a bit too familiar. So
would you do that going forward then? Like no like beers at the end of the week or something with any team members anymore, just so that you can keep it more professional?
No, not necessarily that. I learned a lesson in the moment to not let things become too familiar. That was a number of years ago. So every day's a school day. We're all learning every day. And that was just an important lesson for me to learn at that time. It's okay to do the social thing, but just don't let it get too familiar.
Yeah. And
from that point on, to be honest, we did mainly stick to team socials, but not specifically to avoid, one-to-one, conversations like that. But we did tend to do more of the social aspect on team socials, whether that's like a Christmas night out, or we were very big on community in CCC. Three of our I guess you could say brand values or team values, separate to the code of honor but very much linked. There was clear, community, and connected. What that actually means is what we want for our community is to be clear from them and us, to be clear from subluxation. We want people to be connected to themselves and their chiropractic care, and we want to build a community. So it's interesting, isn't it? Our Crawley Chiropractic Centre, then we've got another CCC, a clear, connected community. And that is what we built. That's why we looked at one of the many reasons how it became a family, because we intended for that to happen.
Very good. I think about this a decent amount because Francesca warns me about not getting too like friends with team. I do think it's probably, I don't know, I guess it's probably two sides to the coin, but I do think it's probably better to stay more like as a gap than trying to push the boundary of being too friendly. Is like keep you as the authority. just makes the conversations like when what you had. I imagine that was an extremely uncomfortable conversation if you had to have that with a friend slash employee as well.
Yeah, yeah. Particularly as this particular associate was a lot closer in age to me than other associates and other employees and team members I've had. When you just said about uncomfortable conversations, it reminds me of a quote. I forget who said it. Success in life is directly proportional to the number or the amount of uncomfortable conversations you are willing to have.
I say this a lot to Francesca because I had to fire someone on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I said this, and I was like, it's extremely uncomfortable doing it, but it's like it's the exact same thing. Like you just have to be able to do it, or you're not cut out for it.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, just to ask you a question on that.
Oh gosh.
Talk us through how you handled that, because
okay.
I'm 46 now, so there's a big difference in age between me and you. I don't know whether I could have done that sort of thing well when I was your age. How did you handle it?
Interesting. And the funny thing is that the person I had to fire is 31 years old. So I'm 20.
You're
She's
20,
31.
Yeah.
We really were living like we lived by the highest low fire fast. She was only a week in. But we just saw a big culture problem. So this was the reasons why. That wasn't actually the question though. So the way I did it, she joined the meeting because it was on a meeting like this because we have a virtual team, and she said, "How are you, Dan?" I was like, "I'm okay, thank you." And firstly, and I won't say her name, this is going to be an extremely uncomfortable conversation, and I'm just going to be straight up from the start because I think it's going to be the best thing for both of us. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to let you off the team. And I will explain why, because I want you to have feedback so that you can improve in the future. And then I went into the reasons why. One of them was also a capacity thing where we have some really good people on the team. We slightly overhired so that we could find A players. And then we knew we were going to have to let at least one go. So that was one of the biggest reasons. The other reason was on coaching calls, we do about 6, 7. So she's on the CSR team, so the chiropractic sales reps. And so she wasn't taking feedback as well. It felt like she was getting her ego was in the way a little bit. And so we set this at the very start. Like you need to be able to take no bullshit feedback because that's how you improve and you grow and you get quicker feedback loops. And so I explained that to her. I gave her feedback, and then I said, I understand that this is not the. And she actually was crying. It was a very rough conversation. My heart was beating out my chest. And I said, I know this is a very hard conversation. It's hard for me as well because I do on our onboarding call together. I really did think you had the potential to really grow. But we have to put partner results. So I linked it back to our core values as well. We have people. So the first P is partner results come first. And I thought that she was limiting partner results came first. And that's also why we overhired for the position. And I explained that to her. They did also know when they came on that we hired 4 people. 1 was going to get fired, maybe potentially 2. So they all had good expectations. But yeah, even now, like it was a very uncomfortable conversation. But I said to Francesca after, it's like, I'm going to have to do that a lot in my life. And so I just had to suck it up. And then I said to her, if you wanted to come, because it wasn't like completely her fault. And I said to her as well, this was on me. This was my fault. Because obviously we could have grown quicker and been able to keep you on. But then also we did want to put partner results come first. And then I said, if you came back, you potentially could. But if you did, we'd really have to iron out these cultural problems. And there was another one, which is the other P in people, which is proactive problem solving. And she was coming to Francesca a lot with like the same question, like multiple times. She was warned a few times. And then she didn't go through the training anywhere near as like she just wasn't an A player as the other people we brought on. And I think that you do have to be a bit ruthless if you want to get your clients the best results possible. And that's why we brought on 4 people rather than the 2 that we needed. Because what would have been way worse is if we had brought on 2 and they both had been bad, and then we would have massively reduced our clients' results. So you just have to pick which pain you want, pick your poison.
Yeah, true story, mate.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know. I can maybe maybe I'll send it to you for a review to have a watch back of it. You can let me know what you think. But I
Yeah, if you want to, I'd be happy to do that, mate.
yeah, it'd be an interesting thing. Then get a live Danny review and then post it on the YouTube. No, I don't think so, but I'd
No,
be interested to
definitely
get
not
you.
that.
No,
Definitely
that's
not
not
that.
good. HR would not like that.
No, for sure, mate. It sounds like you handled it well, and you know what? These things never get easier.
Oh, interesting.
Some things in life never. Some things in life get easier with practice. I've I've never found letting someone go ever get easier. Do you know
I
what?
also think that it was easier because it was only a week. Like
Yeah,
hiring someone who's been there for years, that's like furniture. Like this is what from my mentors, I've never had to do this yet, but I will, is that it's actually like it's the people that slow down your growth the most are the people who have the will to work. They're a good culture fit, but their skill gap is just way too far from where they need to be. So like it's just going to be so much easier just to find someone else rather than try and take a 3 to an 8, a 9, which is what you need as you grow and you become a top level company. So
yeah,
yeah, when I have to do one of them, that'd be. Have you ever had to do something like that? I guess so. Maybe with a CA at one point.
yeah. I've let go one or two DCs as well. That was not nice. As you say though, we expect a certain standard, and when it's not met consistently, then you've got to change things up. And I even led that conversation with similar to what you described. Actually, this is not a conversation that I want to have. This is a very uncomfortable conversation. It's going to be uncomfortable for both of us. And then I just went into that it's the end of the line essentially, without going into the details. That's how the conversation went. And this particular chiropractor was very grateful for all the time and energy that we'd put into training this particular member. And yeah, we left on good, parted ways on good terms, which
Yeah,
it's not always possible, but that's the ideal outcome, isn't it?
definitely. I don't think me and this particular lady left on bad terms, which is good.
Yeah,
I think she was upset because she could see the culture we're building, and wanted to be a part of it, but their word was just a gap. Um, yeah, it's been very interesting talking to you about hiring. I had a lot of other things I wanted to go through. The final thing is we did promise that we'd explain what plurk is because I have remembered this from the first. This was must have been from a year and a half ago. This first time you mentioned plurk to me.
yeah,
So I still remember it to this day when we haven't spoken about it in a very long time.
yes, good stuff. So one of my mentors years and years ago, my first ever coaches as a chiropractor I had, certainly it was their company I worked with. And John Himwood was his name. I say was because he's sadly no longer with us. But John and Judy ran that company together. And John, I can't do an Aussie accent, so I'm not even going to try and do it. But he'd say,
That'd
"I
be
don't,
interesting seeing you try that.
I can do it sometimes, but I can't always do it off the cuff. So I'm not going to try." And so it's a I don't work, I play. But Judy, for her, it's a mixture of work and play. So she doesn't work, she doesn't play, she plays. And so when I heard that, I was like, that is amazing. I am going to take that with me forever. And that's what I did. So then when we set up CCC and we set up our own code of honor, that's why Player is in there, because it's so meaningful and it reminds us all, whether it be in CCC or with my coaching clients or in our relationship code of honor, it's important that we work hard, but we've got to have fun. You know, if you're gonna do it, have fun doing it. You know what I mean? So yeah, we always worked hard. We still do work hard, but we remember to have fun doing it.
We also have that at the end of our people. It's enjoy the journey, but it's a very similar thing. It's like
Yeah,
plurk. I really like it. I didn't add it to the thing. Maybe I could. Maybe I'd have to swap out one of the P's though to be able to add it. I don't know. The other P's are very valuable in the people one. Cool. Well, unfortunately, we're gonna have to wrap it up, Danny. But it has been an absolute pleasure having you on. Um, I want you to, if it's all right, to shout out your company, what you're coaching again, because I think it's very valuable for everyone to. Well, the mindset is, they say it's 80%. Well, I agree with it too. 80%, 90% mindset, 20% implementation, and
absolutely, yeah, I'd agree with that. It is 80 to 90%, or even more than 90%. What's going on between the ears? That is the big determinant factor. In terms of the coaching business, it's chiropracticmindsetmastery.com is the homepage. And on there is a free masterclass for chiropractors. They can learn more about what chiropractic mindset mastery is, how we can help them. And for those people that want to reach out and connect with me, if they want to ask me a question or anything like that, best email address would be danny@dannyscahill.com. Scahill is spelled Scahill. Most people put an R in it, but there isn't one in it. Cool. Thanks for that. It's been a pleasure to be on your show. Much appreciated.
It was a pleasure to go on yours as well. There's an episode out there somewhere that you can find where I'm on it too, where you can listen to me waffle on for a bit longer if you want to. So you can check that out if you like. Appreciate it, Danny. Thank you very much, man.
You're most welcome, mate.